It was 1:15 a.m. on Saturday, February 28, 2026. In the city of Tehran, Iran, a quiet morning was just beginning. It was the first day of the working week there. But this calm did not last long. Suddenly, massive explosions shook the capital city. The sky above Tehran lit up brightly with flashes of light and fire. Loud sounds filled the air. These powerful blasts also hit 4 other important Iranian cities: Isfahan, Qom, Karaj, and Kermanshah. The peace of the night was completely broken. Soon after these attacks began, President Donald Trump of the United States made a very quick announcement. He shared a video on his social media. President Trump told the world that the U.S. military had started major combat operations against the Islamic Republic of Iran. He named this big military action Operation Epic Fury. Just as quickly, Israel also confirmed its involvement. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz stated that their part of the operation was called Operation Roaring Lion. This moment was chaotic and full of fear. The bright explosions over 5 major Iranian cities showed the real, immediate impact of these strikes. The political announcements were made from far away, but on the ground, the reality was loud and frightening. This chapter begins at the very start of this historic event. It takes you right into the middle of the chaos. This story will later explain the secret path and all the complex reasons that led to this critical moment in history. 2. The long road to war. The path to war between the United States and Iran began many decades ago, not in a single moment. Since the year 1979, these two nations have had no normal diplomatic ties. That year marked Iran's Islamic Revolution. During this time, Iranian students took over the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. They held 52 American diplomats as hostages for a long 444 days. A new religious government came to power, led by Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. This new government viewed the United States as its main enemy, a feeling that shaped Iran's actions for many years. Over the following decades, the U.S. and Iran often clashed. They used indirect conflicts, supporting different groups in the region, and also fought through economic means, using strong sanctions. The United States claimed Iran supported terror groups such as Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza. Iran, in turn, accused the U.S. of interfering in its country and hurting its economy. A central point of conflict was Iran's nuclear program. For over 20 years, many countries worked to stop Iran from building a nuclear weapon. In 2015, a significant agreement was made, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, also known as the Iran Nuclear Deal. This deal limited Iran's nuclear activities. In return, Iran received relief from some economic sanctions. However, in 2018, the United States left this deal and sanctions were put back on Iran, making diplomatic solutions much harder. During his first time as president, Donald Trump started a policy called maximum pressure. This plan aimed to weaken Iran's economy with very harsh sanctions, hoping to force Iran to agree to new terms. When Donald Trump became president again in January 2025, he quickly returned to this tough approach. By February 2025, he signed orders for more economic sanctions, trying to stop Iran from selling any of its oil to other countries. This economic pressure, combined with other problems, led to a serious crisis inside Iran in late 2025. The country's economy fell apart. Iran's money, The rial lost almost all its value, making people's savings worthless. Prices for basic things like food and fuel became extremely high. Many ordinary Iranians, especially young people, felt a deep sense of despair and a lack of freedom. Because of this, massive protests began across the country in December 2025. These demonstrations quickly spread to over 100 cities, becoming the largest public outcry since the 1979 revolution. People openly called for a change in government. The Iranian government responded to these protests with extreme violence. There were mass killings of unarmed protesters. The most deadly events happened on January 8 and 10, 2026. Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei himself gave the order for these killings to happen across the country. Forces like the IRGC and Bajij used live bullets, shotguns, and other weapons against the people. Reports of deaths varied widely, from thousands to tens of thousands, showing the true horror of the crackdown. This harsh repression shaped how the international community saw Iran. For many leaders in Washington and Tel Aviv, it showed that the Iranian regime was not only weak from the inside, but also morally corrupt. This brutal response to its own people gave a moral reason for an intervention, laying the groundwork for the military actions that would soon follow. 2. Plans for the attack. Weeks before the large attacks, the United States slowly built a very strong military force in the Middle East. 2 large American aircraft carriers, the USS Gerald R. Ford and the USS Abraham Lincoln, sailed to the area. On January 28, 2026, President Donald Trump used Truth Social to speak about this. He said a massive armada was heading towards Iran. He warned that if Iran did not agree to a deal, the next attack will be far worse. Iran also showed its own strength. Its military did drills, pretending to attack a U.S. airbase in the United Arab Emirates. Also, 6 Iranian boats tried to stop a U.S. oil tanker in the Strait of Hormuz. Before this, in June 2025, the U.S. had launched smaller strikes called Operation Midnight Hammer. These strikes hit Iran's nuclear sites and set their program back by about 2 years. But satellite pictures showed Iran started repairing its missile sites quickly. Even while the military prepared for war, talks for peace were happening. The United States and Iran had been talking since April 2025. These talks happened in places like Oman and Rome. The U.S. wanted Iran to stop its nuclear program and also its missile program. Iran was willing to discuss its nuclear work, but it did not want to stop its missile program. Then, on February 27, 2026, just 1 day before the strikes, there was big news. Oman's foreign minister, Badr al-Busaidi, said a breakthrough had been reached. He stated that Iran agreed to not store a lot of enriched uranium. Iran also agreed that international experts could check all its nuclear sites. Al-Busaidi believed that peace was now within reach. This news made many people wonder, why did the U.S. launch a major attack just after this possible peace deal? Some people thought the U.S. decided to fight even when peace was possible. Others believed Iran was not honest in the talks and only used them to gain time. There was also a difference in what was said about Iran's nuclear program. The Trump administration claimed Iran was only days away from making a nuclear bomb. But American intelligence agencies had different information. They said Iran's nuclear program was set back by 2 years. They also said Iran would need 10 more years to build long-range missiles that could reach the United States. These different reports showed a big gap between the politicians' words and the intelligence experts' findings. The Night of the Bombs. The night of February 28, 2026, was a night of fear and destruction in Iran. At 1:15 in the morning, Eastern Time, American and partner forces began their attacks. This large operation was named Epic Fury by the United States. Israel called its part Roaring Lion. The main goal was to damage Iran's military and security power. Many important targets across Iran were hit. These included the command centers of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, also known as the IRGC. These centers were where the IRGC made plans and gave orders. Iranian air defense systems were also attacked, aiming to make it hard for Iran to protect its skies. Sites where Iran launched missiles and drones, which could be a threat to other countries, were also targeted. Finally, military airfields, where Iran kept its warplanes, were struck. The U.S. Military Command in the Middle East, CENTCOM, said this operation used the largest amount of American military power in the region for a very long time. Israel stated it had many targets ready and would continue to attack Iran as needed. President Donald Trump quickly announced the operation. He said it was to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from Iran. He explained that after a smaller attack in June 2025, which hit Iran's nuclear sites, Iran was warned not to restart its nuclear program. However, President Trump claimed Iran had ignored this warning and continued developing long-range missiles. He promised that the United States would destroy Iran's missile industry and navy. He also made a direct appeal to the people of Iran, telling them to stay inside during the attacks. He then encouraged them to take over your government once the operation was finished, calling it their best chance in generations. A key event during these strikes was the death of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Reports came that Israeli airstrikes targeted his compound in Tehran. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei had been Iran's most powerful leader since 1989, holding both religious and political power. President Trump announced Khamenei's death on social media, stating that U.S. intelligence had located him. 4 Israeli security officials also confirmed that Khamenei was killed in their attack. Iranian news sources later reported that Khamenei's daughter, son-in-law, and grandchild also died in the same strikes. Later that Saturday, Iranian state media confirmed the Supreme Leader's death. This was an event with no recent comparison, as a head of state with such high religious authority had never been killed in this way before. However, the human cost of the operation was also very high and very sad. Iranian news agency IRNA reported that one of the strikes hit a girls' school. At least 53 young female students were killed, and many dozens more were wounded. The U.S. Central Command said it was aware of reports about civilians being harmed. They stated that protecting civilians was of utmost importance. But the Iranian Red Crescent Society reported even higher numbers. They said that more than 200 people were killed across the country. Over 700 people were injured. These tragic numbers showed the immediate and terrible impact of the Night of the Bombs on ordinary people. The military action meant to change the country's future brought great sorrow and suffering to many Iranian families. 5. Iran fights back. Iran did not stay silent after the attacks. Instead, it fought back quickly. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, said they hit American military places and countries working with the U.S. in the Middle East. They promised to keep fighting until their enemy was completely beaten. Within hours of the first strikes, Iran launched missiles and drones. They targeted the main building of the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet in Bahrain. U.S. military bases in Qatar and the United Arab Emirates were also hit. Iranian news said they also aimed at military and security centers in Israel. Smoke was seen rising over Manama, the capital of Bahrain, after the attack on the Navy's Fifth Fleet building. The attacks were not only on military sites. The city of Dubai, a popular place for tourists, also felt the impact. People saw parts of missiles falling from the sky. The United Arab Emirates said it stopped many Iranian missiles. Because of the danger, the country closed its skies. This meant hundreds of flights to and from Dubai and Abu Dhabi had to be canceled. News teams in the UAE saw missiles flying over both Dubai and Abu Dhabi. There were also reports of fires in different places. Iran's strikes hit U.S. military bases and other targets. This caused problems in busy cities and made it hard for planes and oil ships to move. However, the U.S. military said that no American soldiers were hurt in the attacks. Other groups linked to Iran also joined the fight. The Houthis in Yemen, who work with Iran, said they would start attacking ships in the Red Sea again. They had stopped these attacks for a while, but now they were ready to cause trouble for global shipping once more. In Iraq, a group called Kataib Hezbollah, which Iran supports, had its main building near Baghdad attacked. At least 2 people died there. However, not all of Iran's allies acted. Hezbollah in Lebanon, which used to be a very strong group for Iran, stayed quiet. They did not join the counterattacks with missiles or declare war. This was because Hezbollah had become much weaker in the years before, after many operations by Israel in 2024 and 2025. Also, leaders in Lebanon had said they did not need Hezbollah to protect their country. This showed a big change in how things were. The region was now very close to total chaos. Iran's quick answer made the situation much more dangerous, showing that the conflict would not end quickly or easily. 6. The world reacts. The attacks by the United States and Israel and Iran's quick response made the world react fast. Different countries had different opinions. The United Nations Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, said he was worried. He condemned the strikes from all sides. He warned that this war could start a chain of events that no one could stop. U.S. Ambassador Mike Waltz spoke at the UN. He said the strikes were needed because Iran had attacked the U.S. and its friends many times before. But he did not say there was a new direct threat right away. Many people noticed this. Russia said the U.S.-Israeli attacks were planned and not provoked. They called for talks to start again and warned of more fighting. China, a friend of Iran, was also very concerned. China said Iran's borders and safety must be respected. They asked for all military actions to stop. France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, known as the E3, gave a statement. They had told Iran for a long time to stop its nuclear program. They did not say if they supported or were against the U.S. and Israel's attacks, but they did condemn Iran's missile attacks that followed. The European Union also called the situation worrying. In the Middle East, reactions were mixed. Oman, which had tried to make peace, was sad about the violence. It told the U.S. not to get more involved. Pakistan condemned the attack. Morocco condemned Iran's attacks on Arab countries. but Albania supported the U.S. and Israel. Inside the U.S., politicians had different views. Republican Senator Roger Wicker praised the attacks, but Democratic Senator Jack Reed said President Donald Trump started the war without asking Congress first. Beyond the fighting, the world's money markets became very nervous. The attacks in Iran, a country that produces a lot of oil, made people worried. They feared that less oil would be available. This could make gas prices go up for everyone and hurt the global economy. The biggest worry was the Strait of Hormuz. This is a narrow sea passage where much of the world's oil passes every day. Iran had often threatened to close it. If Iran did this, oil could not pass easily. This would cause huge problems for the world economy and could even cause a global recession. Before the attacks, oil prices were already going up. After the attacks, experts thought prices would jump much higher. This meant people would pay more for gas and many other things. The war in the Middle East quickly showed that it could make everyone's wallets thinner. 7. The real reason for war. The real reason for the large war in Iran was not simple. Many people questioned why the attacks happened. The United States government, led by President Donald Trump, said that Iran was very close to having a nuclear weapon. They stated Iran was only days away from getting the materials to build a bomb. This urgent threat was the main public reason given for the military operations. However, reports from different intelligence agencies showed a different picture. The Defense Intelligence Agency, or DIA, had concluded that Iran was at least 10 years away from developing missiles powerful enough to reach the United States. Furthermore, the Department of Defense believed that previous American strikes, known as Operation Midnight Hammer, had already put Iran's nuclear program back by about 2 years. These strikes, which happened in June 2025, had destroyed important nuclear facilities in Iran, like those in Fordo and Natanz. After these attacks, Iran had not made big efforts to repair these key sites. This meant there was a big difference between what the Trump administration said to the public and what its own intelligence experts knew. Other American and European government officials, as well as groups that monitor nuclear weapons around the world, also disagreed with the administration's claims. They pointed out that Iran had not significantly restarted its nuclear program. This important gap between the official story and the facts from intelligence groups became a major point of discussion and controversy. This situation reminded many people of the 2003 Iraq War. Back then, the United States government made claims about Iraq having dangerous weapons. These claims were later found to be false, but they were used to start that war. This historical event encourages people to carefully examine the reasons given for any military action. The war also brought up serious legal questions. One very important issue was the death of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. In the United States, there is a rule called Executive Order 12,333. This rule, which has been in place for many years, prohibits the assassination of foreign leaders. The administration did not clearly explain how the killing of Khamenei fit within this rule. This made people question if the operation followed all rules and laws, both in the United States and internationally. The decision to attack a sovereign country and target its leader created deep debates about legal and moral responsibilities. 8. What happens next? With Supreme Leader Khamenei now dead, Iran faces a huge question: who will lead the country? The system of the Islamic Republic relies heavily on the supreme leader. Usually, a special group, the Assembly of Experts, chooses the new leader. But in the current chaos, with communication problems and many leaders possibly killed or in hiding, it is very difficult to know how this process will unfold. Many people think the powerful Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, might step in to fill the gap. The IRGC is a strong military force in Iran. However, U.S. intelligence agencies have not clearly stated who they believe would take charge. Secretary of State Marco Rubio openly told lawmakers that no one knows who would lead Iran if the current government falls. This admission highlights the big challenge of changing a government without a clear idea of what will replace it. Iran's network of proxy groups across the Middle East is another important factor. These are groups in other countries that Iran supports, such as Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas remnants, or the Houthis in Yemen. They have strongly condemned the U.S. and Israeli attacks. Yet these groups have not yet declared that they will join the fighting directly. If they decide to get involved, the conflict could become much wider and more dangerous across the entire Middle East region. The Strait of Hormuz remains a major concern. This is a very narrow sea passage through which a large part of the world's oil travels every day. Iran has often threatened to close this strait. If Iran or forces linked to it block or disrupt traffic here, the global economic effects could be very severe.
It could stop many oil shipments, leading to sharp rises in gas prices around the world. Experts warned that a long closure of the Strait of Hormuz could even push the global economy into a deep recession. Oil markets will be watching this situation extremely closely when they reopen. What will happen to the protest movement inside Iran? Before the attacks, many Iranians were protesting their government because of economic problems and a lack of freedom. President Donald Trump called on these ordinary Iranians to take over your government after the strikes. However, history shows that foreign military actions, even against unpopular governments, often cause people to unite against the outside intervention, not against their own leaders. It is not clear if the current events will make the protest movement stronger, or if Iranians will rally around whoever remains in power. In the United States, lawmakers are already preparing to debate the legality of the operation. Congressional Democrats are expected to propose war powers resolutions, aiming to limit the president's ability to continue military actions without Congress's approval. This will be a significant political discussion in the coming week. The initial military strikes are over, but their true and long-lasting effects are only just beginning. The situation in Iran is full of unknowns. There is a risk of increased terrorism, new refugee crises, and more political instability in the region for a long time.
Changing a government through bombing from thousands of miles away has rarely brought the stable, democratic results its planners hoped for. The future for Iran and the wider Middle East remains very uncertain. What do you think will be the most difficult challenge for Iran in the coming months?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world.